So when you're trying to improve someone's fat loss capabilities by helping those adrenal glands, and there's a nice simple way of addressing those adrenal glands. If we can support the female's adrenal glands, we can support their thyroid, and we can support their blood sugar management. That is the way to enhance a female's health. And because ovarian function will be up or down during different times, it'll be obviously down regulated after menopause and so on. But if you can support a female's thyroid, their pancreas, i.e. insulin management, and their adrenal function, there may be areas that need more attention at different stages, but if you address those three things on a regular basis, you'll maintain their fat loss capabilities. But if you don't address them, you're going to be doing all the work without getting the results.
Well, thank you so much, Eoin Lacey, for joining me on Your Body's Way. I'm so happy to have you on this podcast. This is such a great thing for me today, because I came to one of your lectures over 10 years ago. So I remember you from that time, and it was just such a great experience. I know you're kind of making waves still in the fitness industry. So thank you so much.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for the invite. So hopefully we have some interesting conversations to help your listeners and get some knowledge out there to enhance some health and well-being and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait. So I just want to let everyone know how I know you. So over a decade ago, I think it must have been like 11 or 12 years ago, it was at Harrow on the Hill, and my husband, he was a strength conditioning coach there at the time, and he was like, oh, he says, do you want to come on this kind of this course, this guy called Eoin Lacey, like he's really good, do you want to come along? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come along, it sounds good. And you blew my mind, and you blew everyone's mind on that course, and I haven't forgotten you since, honestly.
Right, so that's great. That's great to know. Hopefully, I blew your mind in a good way, in a helpful way. But yeah, I'm delighted. That was on functional nutrition, was it? I must have been teaching on.
It was. You were talking about nutrition, yeah. And it was so good. And actually, you really got me thinking about functional medicine after that. Like, you were the first person to get me thinking, like, hang on, functional medicine, that seems like a really good avenue to go down. And actually, I'm currently on the functional medicine path at the moment. So,
oh, brilliant.
Yeah. But it's really funny. I have to tell you this confession. So from that course, you said something that has stuck with me to this day. And literally, I think I've even posted about it recently on Instagram. I think I even mentioned it to someone on another podcast episode. So basically, you said, if you look at someone's glutes, that is the sign of health, because if they can maintain the mass of your glute muscles, then that means that they're doing something right. And so please tell me, Eoin, please tell me you're still teaching stuff like that.
I 100%. I don't say it so much that you should go out and checking people's backsides out, but my point is that people's health, their sleep, their nutrition, their digestion, and their muscle mass are so closely related.
Yes.
So obviously, probably checking out women's backsides. I'm not saying do that, but anybody's health for that matter, and particularly for men. Men, you see now where my facility is a really popular pub just up the road, and you can walk into that pub now and you can see Paddy sitting at the bar, and he's got this big, massive belly, no triceps, no glutes, because they atrophy the lean muscle tissue. They compensate with the alcohol or the sugar diets they're consuming. So people's bodies can definitely showcase their health, their nutrition, and their habits. So I 100% still teach the same sort of stuff. A bit more, I probably don't word it like that. I've grown up a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely what I still teach.
But it's so true, because I love that, because nothing is more motivating for someone to hear, to get someone into the gym. If you say, look, your glutes are a really good sign of your strength and your longevity, and muscle mass and longevity are really closely linked. So to say it like that, the way that you put it, it's so motivating for people to be like, oh my gosh, I need to get in the gym. I need to start working on my glutes, and like the rest is history for them. So
exactly.
That's what I absolutely love.
There's a really good doctor online, Dr. Gabrielle Lyons, you know her?
Yes, I love her.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. She talks a lot about people consuming the right amount of protein. And one of the things she says, which I think is, we've been saying it for years, but she's a nice way of saying it, people aren't over, people aren't fat, they're under muscled. So it's having that ratio of getting body fat, obviously we want down nice and low to optimal levels, but it's the muscle mass, the bone density, it's the ligaments, it's the tendon. That's going to give you longevity. That's going to be anti-age. That's going to sustain a much better lifespan and quality of life. So definitely maintaining muscle mass and complementing that with the right nutrition, the right sleep, the right hormonal balance. That's what we're all looking for.
And do you know what? I was talking to a guest the other day for this podcast, and we had this conversation about fat loss. And something I said was, the way I see fat loss is it's almost like the aftermath. After you've kind of fixed your hormones, your sleep, you've hit the gym, built your muscle, then fat loss that's when the fat loss comes, and that's when it kind of comes a bit easier and it kind of finds its natural place. What would you say about that? Would you say that there's some truth in that?
Oh, 100%. When it comes to fat loss, in my opinion, I'm in one of my gyms now, and I'm not going to say I don't have much cardio. We have a big cardio section upstairs, but cardio training, the main fuel burn doing cardio training is fat. We know this for years. However, doing cardio training isn't the most efficient way of conditioning someone's body. So I like to think of it like, imagine do you remember your first car? Your very first car you ever had? What was it?
Oh my God, iconic. So it was a Toyota Yaris.
Toyota Yaris. My first car was a Volkswagen Golf. We all remember our first
yours was
car.
higher tech than mine.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's
a Golf. Everyone wanted a Golf.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
The fact, do you still drive that car now? No, I don't drive the Golf either. But we only get one body. So the fact of the matter is, when you have someone coming to you in the gym, or you have your listeners at home training, what you're trying to do is build a better car. You're trying to maintain a better engine, maintain a better function. And the journeys you go on can be many different journeys: motorways, off-road, ice, smoke, whatever it may be. But if your only goal is fat loss, people tend to push themselves into training styles that wears in the body. It's repetitive on the knees, repetitive on the lower back. But by doing strength training, by getting your nutrition, getting your hormones, getting your sleep sorted, once the body is optimal, it will burn fat so much more efficiently. So people going into the gym purely for a caloric expenditure or a sweat rate, and I say this many times, just because you're in the gym sweating doesn't mean you're getting results. So when you're in the gym, you're asking the body a question: get bigger, get stronger, get leaner, get more flexible. If you only go in asking to burn fat and you haven't addressed these underlying fundamentals of the body, you're going to end up with injury. You're going to end up with some wear and tear. And one of the two biggest things that can stall anybody's progress in the gym is injury or illness. And if you go in and just hit fat loss first and you don't address the fundamentals of hydration, of hormonal balance, of detoxification, of digestion, of bowel movements, of cognition, of sleep, you're jumping the gun. You're not going to get the results you need, and you're going to break down. You'll be that person on the side of the road, broken down on the motorway. You've got loads of petrol in your car, but you're flat tires and you're leaking oil. Address the body, get all the fundamentals in order, and then go on your journey.
And that's what this conversation is going to be about, if we can even fit it in. So all of those fundamentals that you need to address if you're going to have an easier fat loss journey. But going with your car analogy, it's almost like, so if you go and do lots of cardio and you're kind of burning yourself out in the gym, it's kind of like, you know how a car is in a city and it's kind of stopping and starting, and like, you know, it's not the best thing for the engine. And what it really wants to do is it just wants to kind of get on the road, and it just wants to have a good drive. You could kind of relate cardio to the kind of, you know, the city drive, and then, you know, the weight training, you kind of, you know, relate that to a good motorway drive, you know?
Yeah. And this is the thing. And everybody's body responds differently to different forms of training, but it's the right form for that person at the right time. So, for example, after COVID, a lot of people were doing home training, a lot of HIIT training, a lot of cardio training. And we do quite a lot of blood analysis and hormone analysis in the clinic. And when people come in and they've trained a certain way for so long, and they haven't changed their training, or they haven't maybe looked at the nutrition or the bloods enough, they're burning themselves out. So I have these guys with massively high cortisol and low testosterone. I've got females with digestion issues and sleep issues. They're doing intermittent fasting, and intermittent fasting can be beneficial for some people. However, if you've got you're adrenally compromised, or you've got digestive issues, or you're not detoxifying correctly, you're not sleeping correctly, intermittent fasting may cause more of an issue for those people. So I think it's fundamentally important to train as hard as your body can respond to it, and only when the body is recovered correctly. If you're waking up and you're fatigued every single morning, going out and doing a 10K run, although running it can be very beneficial to the body, at that current time is going to overwhelm that person's physical capabilities and also hormonal response.
Right. Okay, awesome. So let's backtrack first. So let's get into getting to know you a bit better. So what do you currently do? Are you doing currently online programs? Like, what has been your journey in this industry so far?
Oh my God, how long have you got? I'll keep it relatively short. I've been coaching and doing nutrition for over 27 years now. It's the only job I've only ever really done. I was lucky enough to be involved in some big gym chains here in Ireland. And I got to like a gym manager level at a young age and realized that wasn't for me. And the reason why it wasn't for me was everybody did the same thing. You went to a gym, you did your body pump or spinning classes, or you did your weight training program. And that's it. It was all about membership, not about members, but membership. It's not about dealing with the client. So then I left and I opened up my own gym, small gym, and I was dealing with people on a one-to-one basis, which was much better because I could tailor the nutrition and the training to complement them. However, missing link for me. So I went back to college to study to be a physiotherapist. So I need to know more about the anatomy and physiology and biochemistry and rehabilitation. And that allowed me to train a different section of people. Then I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of athletes, and I felt my S&C or strength and conditioning knowledge wasn't where it needed to be. So I began to study with Charles Poliquin, I ended up working with Charles for many years, traveling the world, teaching his courses. So I was very, very blessed to be involved in that. And that's what got me into the biosignature modulation, the course he used to teach, and function medicine. And when I found function medicine, I just said, this is my missing link. This is function medicine, for people that don't know, is a patient-centered approach to the management of chronic disease. So if somebody has a problem, maybe not just look at fixing the problem, maybe ask, why did that problem happen? And what circumstances was that person in before they had that issue? And what was their lifestyle? What was their nutrition? What was their circumstance? What was their family history? What was their genetics? What was their lifestyle like? And when you can approach someone's health from a nutrition, from a blood test, from a dietary point of view, from a supplementation, from a training point of view, you can put together a plan to help anybody. So now at the moment, what I do is I've got 7 facilities that I own and run. Most of them are in Ireland. One is in Portugal, and my main job is I have a clinic that I call myself a performance consultant. I help people perform better in their sport and in their life, and I do that through nutrition, training, lab testing, coaching. Some of it's a lot of just support for people. Some of it's a bit of education. Some of it's meal plans. Some of it's training programs. Some of it's supplements. Some of it's genetic testing. Hopefully, if it's me or my faculty, will bring together what you need to do to be the best version of yourself possible. Whether you're Conor McGregor, a UFC fighter, whether you're Johnny Sexton, a rugby player, whether you're a soldier. I work a lot with soldiers, I work a lot with athletes in different parts of the world to enhance their performance. Because some people, if all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. And nutrition and calorie counting is good for some people, but not for everybody. If you've got a celiac disease, if you've got thyroid problems, if you've got anemia, one of my big pet hates, I'm not going to pick on women, but a lot of women that are looking to lose weight, they have lots of anemia issues going on. And if you don't address that anemia issues, you can have 800 calories a day and be training for 2 hours a day and still not losing weight. So if a trainer is just pushing more work and less food down your throat, that's not going to get you to where you need to. You need to maybe have a more holistic, is the wrong word, a more 360 viewpoint of how to help people. And training and nutrition is definitely core, but there sometimes for some people there's a bit more. And what helps a 24-year-old female and what helps a 55-year-old female are dramatically different. So you train the person and their position in life, the stressors they have, the medical history they have, the family history they have, but you always make sure it's person specific. It's not a program, it's a personalized approach for that person.
Right. And before I mean, that was really great. Before I go into my first question about all of that, what kind of hits me first is when you were talking about someone who is just say she has anemia, and it doesn't matter what her diet is, it doesn't matter how much she trains, how many calories she eats, she still won't burn the fat that she wants to burn. So I guess my first question is quite a heavy one, and it's about the calories. It's about calories in, calories out, and how people are like, no, like 100% it's calories in, calories out. So if you drop your calories, you'll lose weight. If you increase your calories, you'll gain weight. But then I'm kind of stuck with that, because that should be the case with a healthy person. But if you're someone who's dealing with hormonal issues or nutrient deficiencies, then that rule doesn't sort of apply anymore. Would you agree?
100%. And it's not a rule, because if it was a rule, it'd be a rule all the time.
Yeah.
And that it just purely isn't. So there's people like Lane Norton, who's a very knowledgeable guy, who definitely, and we had Lane in our facility multiple times, very clever guy. And you're correct there. If somebody is healthy, if that car that you get rolls off the forecourt and you put 100 kilometers of fuel in that car will go 100 kilometers. However, you roll a car off the car lot and it's 20 years old or 30 years old, 100 kilometers may not get that car 100 kilometers. So it's how well the body uses it, how well that person sleeps. So, for example, if I gave you, let's say, breakfast A, and breakfast A was brilliant, a great, well-balanced breakfast, and I gave you that breakfast after 8 hours sleep, you would digest that brilliantly. However, if I gave you that breakfast after 4 hours of sleep, your body will massively change how it digests that meal based on your pancreatic function, based on your insulin sensitivity, based on your circadian rhythm. So people think that X amount of calories, if we reduce our calories, we'll get this weight loss. From a mathematical standpoint and with a healthy population, yes, that is the case. But unfortunately, it's not the case for everybody. And it's the quality of the carbohydrates. It's where it's the quality of the calories, where they coming from. Carbohydrates, fats, protein. Is it, in one meal? Is it fasting? Is it split over, 6 meals? Is the protein sufficient? Is the fat sufficient? Has that person got a gallbladder? Have they got diabetic issues? So when people say, calories in, calories out, I would love it to be that calm. I would love it to be that simple. And if it was that simple, everyone would lose weight. Me and you wouldn't even have a job. So, but the fact is that there's so much more variations going on. Having said that, I always like to stipulate, some people just need to eat less. Some people need to move a bit more. So there's flip sides to that. I'm not going to say, no, it's your estrogen dominance, not the 10 Krispy Kreme donuts you had. But there's more to it, unfortunately.
Yeah. I was just, while you were talking just then, I was looking for a book on my Kindle, because I believe it was Gary Taubes, the case he wrote, his recent book was The Case for Keto, and that's the one I've got on my Kindle.
Yeah.
And he said something really great about calories in, calories out that really struck me. And I'll probably, like your glute comment, I'll probably end up commenting this for the rest of my life as well. But he basically said, so there are extremes. So if you eat 4,000 calories a day, like obviously you're going to gain weight. And he said it was quite a crass example, I guess. But he said, if you're in Auschwitz and, you're barely eating, then of course you're going to lose weight. Like, so those are the two extremes. But then the gray area in the middle is littered with hormonal issues and stress issues and, everything that, we deal with in our lives. And that gray area is just not easy. It's not, you eat calories and then you burn them, and that's the rule. Like, it's not like that. So that kind of struck me as well when you were talking. Yeah.
And it's interesting because Gary Taubes and Lane Norton, they've gone head to head many times online, and I think sometimes the question is futile, because they're arguing about, no, my side is right, no, your side is right. Nobody's right. And I asked this to Lane directly. I said, Lane, well, what about a person that has this problem? And his answer was, it depends. I said, well, what about if a person has this problem? He says, well, it depends. And I said, Lane, because he's a very nice guy. What he said was, it all depends. So it's all person specific. So Gary, he drives it all down to sugar and insulin and so on. But when you see people on a day-to-day basis, which you do, which I do, you realize that it's very unique. Intermittent fasting, low carb, keto adapted, Atkins, all these different diets. I can understand the premise of them You have to deal with the person. You don't deal with the nutrition. So that, and unfortunately, that's a bad answer. But if people, there's all extremes in the grey area. We need to have, and I make it very simple on my dietary approaches. It's very simple. I call it A, B, and C. You need to have adequate protein. What is adequate protein? It's different for you than it is for me. I'm 101 kilos. I'm a different gender than you. I'm a different age than you, and so on. Then balance my fats. Well, have I got a gallbladder? Do I digest fats well? Is it omega-3s, omega-6s, omega-9s? Is it fish? Is it olive oil? And then C, I stand for controlling carbohydrates. People's carbohydrate tolerance is very different. It waves during the day, it waves during from male to female, from muscle mass, from GLUT4 activation, how many steps you do, what form of training you do. So it's too simple to say calories in, calories out, but it all should be individualized. And that ABC is an initial way I start to design people's programs.
So just to kind of wrap up the calories in, calories out conversation, would you say managing your calories is important if you want to lose body fat?
100%. Well, I think, but this is the thing I say to people, everyone. Any nutritionist worth his soul will never recommend a calorie goal to a client unless they first have a diet plan from that client or a food diary from that client. If I say to you, okay, what weight are you? What's your body composition? How many times a week do you train? And then I give you a calorie goal. That's unprofessional because I don't know what you're currently eating. What I do is I get your meal plan, I get your food diary, I see what you're eating. I work out what you possibly should be consuming from the equations, and then I might titrate you up to that progressively or bring you down. But I have clients coming to me initially from that have maybe eating disorders or issues in the past, and they don't eat 1,000 calories a day. I can't tell that person to eat 1,500 calories. And maybe if they've got eating disorders, I won't even mention the calories. I'll bring in, I have an expert, a female that works with me, she's an expert at eating disorders. I'll bring her in for that situation. But the general population, we need to find out where they currently are, where they optimally should be, and we gradually bring them towards that or bring them down. And then we position the meals right. We get the proteins, fats, the carbs, the calories, and make it simple for people. The simpler we can make it for people, the better it is. We call it the KISS principle. Keep it simple, sexy. Some people say keep it simple, stupid, but I think being called sexy is better than being called stupid. So keep it simple, sexy. Any recommendations you give to people, make them simple. You're undereating, you're overeating. That's not a substantial breakfast. That's too little food. And then what happens is, and I've seen this in food diaries so many times, brilliant breakfast, brilliant lunch, brilliant dinner. Then they're sitting at home. Oh yeah, and then they eat around themselves. So it's not necessarily the meals; it's the mind. We call that mindless eating. Like we've all been to the cinema or watched some stupid reality program on television, and we eat something, and the first thought is, "Oh, that's nice," and the second thought is, "Oh, it's gone." So we're not mindful in the moment. So when you get a food diary from someone, you can see that. And most people don't even put that stuff in initially. You have to press them for it. So that's why when it becomes much more individual, that's when the art of coaching, the art of counseling your clients in nutrition gets more and more in depth.
I'm so guilty of what you just said. Like I'm just like, yeah, breakfast is great. Oh my God, my lunch is so angelic, and my dinner, just lots of vegetables, protein. But then literally, like for as long as I can remember, I have to have my chocolate. I have to have it. And I've been doing it for so long, and I feel fit, I feel healthy. So it's never been a problem to me. But if someone like yourself was to look at my food diary and if I was to tell you I wasn't sleeping well, which to be honest, my sleep isn't great, you might look at my food diary and say, well, Tam, look at what you have in the evening just before you go to bed. And I'll be like, oh shit, like I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
And it's funny because don't get me wrong, having a bit of dark chocolate or whatever is fine. But I have a client of mine, she doesn't like dark chocolate. So she sent me a screenshot of her holidays of a t-shirt in a shop and said, I don't like dark chocolate. I eat milk chocolate in the dark. So it's not exactly the same thing. But if you're relying on that chocolate after your dinner, if you're relying on a treat after your dinner, maybe you just have a sweet tooth, which is no such thing really, or you've undereaten during the day. And most females that we assess, fat protein has been under-eaten during the day, and that's where they crave something else towards nighttime. Now, having something the weekend, it can be managed, but that meal time between when you finish and when you go to bed can really be a saboteur to your hormones, can really be an interfering to melatonin, can be really, obstructive to glycemic variation when you sleep. And that's when people sometimes wake back up after an hour of sleep. It's called reactive hypoglycemia, where they have sugars, the sugar goes up, insulin comes down, brings it back down again, and then the adrenaline wakes them back up an hour into sleeping. So, yeah, sleep and blood sugar control are essential, that need to be addressed if there's an issue with weight management or hormonal output.
And I want to, first of all, I want to talk about hormones first for females, and then I want to end on sleep, because that is such a big topic and is something that I'm really getting interested in as well. So I'll be really interested to hear what you have to say about it. But so, you've obviously got clinics, and you've got lots of clients, and you're just doing such a great thing. You also have loads of I saw you have online courses. And I noticed you have one that's literally for females. It's fat loss for females.
Yeah.
So first of all, just the empathy that you have to actually say, look, ladies, you've got it so differently from men. Like, you need a whole curriculum to talk about fat loss for you. And, here I am giving you the information that you need. So how different is it for females than from males to lose body fat? Is it harder for women, or do we just have to consider different things? Or are they the same? Are they similar?
Well, biochemically, it's exactly the same process. The beta oxidation, or the burning of fat inside the cell, is the same for male, for female. But I think there's more challenge. I feel, in my experience, there's more challenges for females than there is for males. I think sometimes there's more stuff that can mechanistically go wrong and cause more problems. Men stop eating bread for a week and they seem to lose weight. It tends to happen a bit faster for a male. But one of the things that for females that I really focus on is that every cell in our body, males, females body, has a clock. And they have a rhythm. They have a circadian rhythm of when they should be working, when they should be repairing, when they should be doing their job. We all know. And unfortunately, a lot of females that I deal with, their circadian rhythm is all over the place. And what they tend to, and again, I'm generalizing, and I don't mean to be sexist in any way, but a lot of the women that I look after, everybody else comes first. The kids come first, the husband, the partner, the job, everyone else comes first but them. And then what happens is they're running ragged, and they're trying to get in shape and trying to eat well, and it's just too much. There's too much demand on females. So for me, what I do with majority of my clients is I give back. I give them nutrients, I give them supplements, I give them recovery. I focus on building a better female health, and then I focus on fat loss. But I don't go fat loss first. When a female comes to me and they've had a number of kids, the most withdrawal, the most demand placed in a female's body is having kids in succession. It's a huge withdrawal. And people think, it's grand, posh boys can bounce back and lose weight. But she is a whole staff looking after her kids. She's not getting, I don't know, she's getting up 3 times a night. I don't know. But everyone's situation is different. So when a female comes to me and they're looking to lose weight, the first thing I do is I start adding stuff in that they're missing. I don't take calories away. I add in magnesium, and I add in zinc, and I add in carnitine. I add in, better sleep. I add in movement. I don't smash them in the gym. Don't get me wrong. I smash people all the time. I kill people in the gym, but when they're able for it, not when it's too soon for them. So for me, it's restoration of female health. It's balance of hormones. It's improvement of sleep. It's blood sugar balancing, and what we call nutrient partitioning. And once we get that in place, then I can make them lose weight. And most of the time, when they come into me, they're inflamed. Their energy is low. They bruise easy. One of the signs of people having anemia is they bruise easy. They get dizzy when they stand up. They go long times without having any hunger or urge to eat food. Most women I have are constipated. I have one lady, and I say it as a joke, but she laughed about it now. I asked her, how regularly do you have your bowel movement? She said, I'm super regular. I said, how many bowel movements do you have? I have it every Wednesday. Every Wednesday? That's not normal. But if you're not going to the bathroom every day, you're not removing excess toxins. You're not removing actually hormones that have done their job. When estrogen has done its job, the body will, filter through a process called glucuronidation in the liver and get rid of it through your bowel movement. But if you're not having a bowel movement every day, that can be reabsorbed into the body. You can have dysbiosis. There's an enzyme in the gut called beta-glucuronidase. And what it does is it takes estrogen that's been bound, breaks it, and the estrogen can go back into circulation. And then you have women with sore boobs, putting on fat on their legs, putting on fat on their triceps, and they're killing themselves in the gym. But it's their digestion, it's the removal of toxins and hormones that have done their job that are contributing to them not getting results in the gym.
So, I mean, this basically what you're saying in so many words is just coming back to the fact that you need to address, like, are you going to the toilet regularly? Again, are you sleeping? How are your stress levels? Are you eating well? Are you supplementing well after you've, after your lifestyle, like let's say you've had kids and, the stuff that women have to go through. It's about addressing those things, and then the fat loss comes, and then the vitality, and then you can push it hard in the gym, and all of those things come after those fundamentals, which, to be honest, when you mention that stuff to people, it's not sexy enough. When you talk about sleep, it's just like, oh yeah, just tell me how to lose body fat, or are you going to the toilet? Yeah, just tell me how to lose weight though. Like, it's so boring for people, and that. Like, how can we make it more exciting for people to want to feel motivated to do that stuff? Like,
things come in waves. So at the moment, everyone's is jumping into ice buckets and doing cold showers and doing all these things. Like cryotherapy is a new thing, and things go in fads. However, one of the things I try to get across to people is maybe the steps or the protocols aren't sexy. I could say to if someone came to me and they were overweight, and I said to them, okay, look, the big issue is here, you have what's called obstructive sleep apnea. You snore when you're asleep and you wake yourself up. Until we get this sorted, everything else you do, you won't get the best results from it. However, if I said to someone, hang on, I'm going to give you the sleep anti-aging regenerative protocol. What? So you have to tag it on. You make it sexy to what that person wants. But if you have obstructive sleep apnea, you're going to age faster. Your skin's going to sag. You're going to put on weight. Your cognition, mood. You're more prone to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, strokes, cardiovascular disease. That may not be sexy to that person, but as coaches, we need to highlight the sexiness for that person. If I said to you, look, if you're trying to have kids, let's say, and it's okay, to improve your fertility chances, we need to work on your sleep. We're going to do a fertility sleep enhancing protocol. Oh, give it to me, whatever it is. Or it's like, for a man, I'm going to boost your testosterone. What is it? It's a sleep testosterone boosting protocol. Give it to me. What is it? Go to bed at 10 o'clock. Get up at 6. Wow. So it doesn't, unfortunately, it's not sensationalized enough on Instagram and TikTok to stop people.
it should be. I love it.
I know, but this is the thing, results. When you get results with people, you'll be busy all day. And when someone loses weight, and someone not even losing weight, like anyone could lose weight, but losing fat, maintaining muscle mass, putting on muscle mass, when people see those clients, you'll be busy forever. And it isn't sexy, unfortunately, but it's essential, And even that, on that topic there, supplements. I'm a big fan of supplements, and they're very effective. But supplements are not drugs. So if I give you paracetamol or Tylenol or a Disprin or whatever it is for a headache, you'll get the benefit straight away. If I give you a multivitamin, you don't get the benefit of a multivitamin straight away. So there's a length of time, but people think that they take a something for a month, it'll do its job. It needs to be taken over time. However, and I do this all the time to coaches in live seminars, I ask people, how many people in the room take supplements? And everyone puts their hand up. Then I ask the question, how many people in this room have been tested and know they should take that supplement? And 1 or 2 people raise their hand. Why are you taking supplements? Because it was marketed to you? Because it came up on your feed? Because some guy or some girl on Instagram said it's good for you? Most of these guys are taking anabolic steroids and their body responds differently. You need to deal with you where you are. So supplements should be taken in conjunction with a dietary approach, in conjunction with a lifestyle approach, and you should really have some sort of professional recommendation or a laboratory analysis to indicate you need that supplement.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the functional medicine approach, where whenever you deal with any client, you need to, like, one of the things that is on the functional medicine forms, I'm sure your forms have changed a lot since when you did it, but so rest, how much rest you get, nutrition and hydration, exercise, stress management, and I think there's I think exercise. Did I say exercise? Can't remember.
Yeah, I think they've one of the spirituality and all stuff in there. They go deep into that too. Yeah.
Yes. So really, it's about, if you master those fundamentals, well, no one's a master, are they? But if you can try and, kind of fix one area that you think needs fixing first, and then fix this area, and then fix this area, then you're more likely to have, this great journey, this kind of fitness journey, and this fat loss journey that's going to be successful. So I love that this is really being drummed in right now, because it's so important. So, I mean, coming back to female hormones, you spoke about women who have children. I have 2 children myself, and oh God, like, after having kids, do you have kids?
I've got 4 kids. Yeah.
Okay, so you've witnessed what it's like then. So after having kids, it's like your body is literally put through the ringer, like, as a woman. The baby takes all of the nutrients that you've got, because your body's like, you don't need these, the baby needs these. So literally it sucks everything that you've got and it gives it to the baby so that it can grow. And then, then you have the baby, and then you lose all the blood. And then that's when, iron deficiencies and anemia start to come in, and, and then the stress of not sleeping. And you really get haggard. The only way I can explain it is like haggard. And I feel like I aged 10 years, and my oldest child is only 4. And it's like the math just doesn't add up. But in my head, I'm just like, it's definitely been 10 years though. Like, that's how I feel. So going from that to then perimenopause, when, the hormones start to get a bit wonky, and then going into menopause, when hormones basically flatten. So how is the fat loss journey going to change for a woman over those seasons in her life? What does it become more difficult for her to lose fat as she
Yes. So the answer to the question is 100% yes, and you're bang on there. My eldest son, he's 22. I've got a 19-year-old. I've got a 9-year-old, and we now have another 1-year-old. So we were cuddling during COVID, and maybe had a bit of a mental breakdown as well. But I joke. But one of the things when it comes to a female, you have to look at the trajectory of what's going on. Having kids together. Like, there's a Dr. Dean Rathlock wrote a book on post-pregnancy, and what he said in it, he's done a lot of research that after having a child, it takes 5 years on a standard American diet to regain health. A standard American diet is pretty poor, let's be honest. But what he showed was, if someone has 2 kids within a 5-year period, that time doubles. So you had 2 young kids, your sleep is compromised, you're breastfeeding, and then during that time, sleep is broken, recovery is compromised, and overwhelmed to anyone's body, particularly to the female, but it's super overwhelming. And then that person's body is compromised, because the most priority when you're having a baby is the baby. The baby's a parasite. You're just a vessel of giving everything to the baby, which is just the way the bodies are made. So the key thing is restoring that. But how fat loss changes is, if there's one thing I can express to all the listeners: your adrenals that sit above your kidneys, they're your backup. They're your backup for estrogen. They're your backup for testosterone. They're your backup for adrenaline and noradrenaline. They can really help the body out. So when you're trying to improve someone's fat loss capabilities by helping those adrenal glands, and there's a nice simple way of addressing those adrenal glands. If we can support the female's adrenal glands, we can support their thyroid, and we can support their blood sugar management. That is the way to enhance a female's health. And because ovarian function will be up or down during different times, it'll be obviously down regulated after menopause and so on. But if you can support a female's thyroid, their pancreas, i.e. insulin management, and their adrenal function, there may be areas that need more attention at different stages. But if you address those 3 things on a regular basis, you'll maintain their fat loss capabilities. But if you don't address them, you're going to be doing all the work without getting the results.
There's this tree diagram that comes into mind, and it's like a triangle, actually, not tree. And at the top, at the bottom are your sex hormones, at the top are your adrenals, and in the middle, I
Yeah,
think it's thyroid. I think it's
yeah,
thyroid. Um, and so that basically says adrenals come first. So what you just said.
yeah,
And then literally if the adrenals are stressed and they're not functioning, and you're running about, you've just had kids, you're not sleeping, and all of the stresses on your body, if you're not addressing that, then it trickles down into your other hormones. So then your thyroid is disrupted, like you said, and then at the bottom are your sex hormones, which are just basically the last port of call for your body. Your body's like,
yeah,
the reproduction is probably the last thing that your body puts on the list. It's like, okay, so
yeah,
I'd rather survive than reproduce. So
yeah.
yeah, sex hormones are right at the bottom there.
Yeah, and this is the thing. It can affect in different ways. I have a colleague of mine, Dr. Brian Walsh, and he sort of demystifies this adrenal fatigue, because the adrenals are still working, but they're just compromised. Their function, their output is compromised. But all hormones, they sort of speak to each other in a negative feedback loop with the HPA axis, with the environment, with sleep. But for a female, obviously, if you're under stress, sex hormones are going to go low. If you're thyroid, a lot of women have subclinical thyroid issues that are not addressed, and then if your thyroid is not working correctly, it's your gas pedal on your metabolic function, and it will put a brake on it. And then again, that will feed the adrenals will feed it. So everything is linking in together. But the most important thing for a coach, for a nutritionist, for a professional to do with their client is listen to them. What signs are they having? If a woman is having irregular periods, if they're not going to the bathroom, if they're getting fatigue, if they're losing the outside of their eyebrow, if their hair is fine, if their nails are brittle, get a thyroid test done. If you've had a miscarriage, get a thyroid test done, please, because all the dieting in the world, if you've yo-yo dieted, this came out about Oprah Winfrey years ago. Oprah Winfrey was notorious for a yo-yo dieter for years, and then after 20 years of yo-yo dieting, they found out she's got a thyroid problem. Now, come on, she's a VIP celebrity for years. If she had a thyroid problem, they would have known it before now. But you think yo-yo dieting kicked your thyroid in the bum? It does. So if you've had kids, it can impact your thyroid function. Having C-section kids are the big stress on postnatal or postnatal stress disorders, a lot of issues. So you need to listen to the clients, let them tell you what's going on. And that's when you'll know whether this is an adrenal problem. Are they hungry all the time? Are they thirsty? Are their blood sugar up and down? Are they getting skin tags in their skin? That's a sign of insulin issues. Look at their diet. They're having loads of carbs at breakfast, then skipping loads of food, and then having loads of carbs at night time. Focus on pancreas function, focus on adrenal function. So there's loads of things that can be going wrong with a client, but listen to them. What's going on? How's their hair? How's their skin? How's their mood? How's their dizziness? How's their cognitive function? Are they going to the bathroom every day? Are they sleeping? I know it's not sexy, but it's fundamental.
And speaking of thyroid, I think the reason why so many women have thyroid issues but they don't know is because the ranges, the norms that they're given for their thyroid. But then on top of that, a lot of thyroid tests don't actually test the antibodies, which are really a key indicator of thyroid dysfunction as well. So you can have normal thyroid levels, but then your antibodies could be through the roof, but they don't test
Massive.
that. So
They don't, they don't, and this is the thing, that they don't test the antibodies. And what happens is the number one hormone that most people get checked for thyroid function is TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Now, it isn't even a thyroid hormone, it's a pituitary hormone. So it's the one that goes to the thyroid to tell the thyroid what to do. Then the thyroid releases T4, that gets converted to T3. We can have conversion issues, we can have enzyme issues, we can have, receptor issues, we can have antibodies, like you mentioned, like thyroglobulin or thyroid peroxidase. We can have these antibodies, which will over time cause they're not a sign of damage, they're an indication of autoimmunity, but the body will attack then the thyroid or the receptors and so on, and then over time it will progress to an issue. But as you said there, the range of TSH in Ireland is 0.5 to 5.0. That is a monstrous range, You talk to Brian Walsh and he'll tell you it should be between 1.5 and 2.5. So and it's obviously different at different ages, but it's roughly the same. So there can be underdiagnosed hypothyroid or hyperthyroid issues for a long, long time, and it can undermine fertility, cognition, schizophrenia, all these issues. It can be anxiety issues that is
And body
rampant now
fat.
at the moment. Oh yeah, and body fat, which is what we're talking
Which
about.
is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
bipolar. That's me going off on one day.
Yeah, get checked. People need to get checked, and like I'd say antibodies are a test that need to be done for the thyroid for sure. What are your thoughts? So you talk about the stages of life for a woman: pregnancy, perimenopause, then menopause. The adrenals are so important. They're at the top of this kind of triangle of hormones. And it becomes even more important going into menopause when, it needs to take over the role of the ovaries when estrogen cuts out. So you really need to, I think I heard, Dr. Mindy Peltz.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said something really amazing the other day. She said, you know what? I think we should reframe the 40s for women. The 40s is now the decade where you start to say no. It's like the 40s are mine. I'm going to say no. I'm going to put myself first, because you literally have to. If you're going to save your health, if you want to keep healthy, if you want to look great, if you want to look amazing, then you have to start saying no and looking after your stress levels. So I really like that. I really like what she said. But what I wanted to kind of talk about is more about the female cycle, just to kind of touch on it, because it's a question I have. It's so popular now, cycle syncing. So training in time with your cycle. So for example, when you're ovulating, to train hard, when you're actually on your period, to train hard, but then when you're ovulating, take it easy. Oh, I'm getting confused now. But basically to train hard at certain times during your period, during your menstrual cycle, and then to take it easy during certain times in your cycle. And the same for food: eat different foods at different times and fast, at different times. Do you think there's some sense in doing that for the everyday woman, or do you think it's more like looking at mice rather than the elephant that's in the room? Do you think it's just a small thing that...
Yeah, there has been some really good research on training and syncing it with different levels of what we call intensification accumulation, heavier lifting or more volume lifting around the Olympic cycles. There is quite a lot of research on athletes with training and menstrual cycles.
Athletes, yeah.
Yeah, but the question is, that's with athletes. That's not what maybe a mother has 4 kids at home who's trying to get a different training session in, and realize when you do a training program, there's a certain amount of exposure that the body needs in a small period of time for the body to adapt to it. So if you're changing the program constantly, and most females don't have a 28-day cycle. It's not 14 days here, 14 days here. It could be 3 days of a period, 7 days of a period, every 22 days. So not everyone's the same. So I can understand that, yes, there is a percentage amount of people that will respond to training at different luteal phases of their cycle, but that's for athletic people and people that are full-time athletes. Could some people get benefit from it? Possibly, but there's so much bigger things to focus on. It's just like heart rate training, intensity, their hydration, their hormones or supplements, rather than maybe getting a few more reps when you're more used to volume. I don't think it's an area that I would focus on, because the return of investment at that time and that focus could be better spent somewhere else.
Because with an athlete, you're literally trying to improve their performance by like 0.5%, you're trying to, up their game, and everything counts. So that's when looking at their cycle and thinking, okay, how can we optimize this? That's a good time to bring that in as a tool. But when it comes to your everyday woman, it might be just a bit, just not necessary. Like there's more to look at.
Much more.
Yeah, but what I do think cycle syncing is good for is helping a woman realize that she doesn't have to, and she shouldn't smash it in the gym, diet like a maniac all the time. So I think it's a nice way for her to be like, okay, so I can push hard and then pull back, and I can relax and I can rest. And I think that's nice. I think that's a nice thing for women.
You know what? What am I now? I'm 42 now, right? So I've been lifting weights for, for forever. And one of the things when you get older, your warm ups take a little bit longer. Your training at the top stays, and all the guys at the gym slag because they're on their way up and I'm on my way down. But I don't know if it works exactly like that. But what I say with it is auto regulating your training. Regulate what you feel you can do, what your body is up to do. You don't have to smash it like a friend of mine, Luke Lehman. You don't have to be in beast mode all the time. Sometimes least mode is good enough. Getting to the gym is important, but doing what the body can tolerate at the time it can tolerate it, not pushing yourself or smashing yourself every single time. I use HRV quite a lot with my athletes and with my clients, and I check blood glucose levels and sleep levels, and I see when their HRV is low. Maybe the volume is going to be low today. The intensity can still be high, but the volume should be lower. They should always get them to train. Sometimes they come and just do some cardio and sauna and go. They could do some cardio, mobility, stretch and go. Some days they're lifting heavy, some days they're doing HIIT. But knowing what the body's able for, because that's what will keep you progressing. But smashing it all the time, this overtraining, overreaching, competing with other people, you're competing with yourself. So I think what you said there is very apt. Females in particular need to tolerate the training themselves. I'm not giving them a cop out. I'm not saying I don't feel like it today. I'm just saying wave that and volume. Just so you know, guys, is volume is the amount of time you're lifting something, the amount of reps, how long the set lasts, how long your training lasts. That can come down. That should come down regularly, and we should cycle it. But if your body isn't into it, smashing yourself. This isn't David Goggins running 7 marathons. You need to do what your body's able to recover from. The bigger the hole that you dig, the harder it is to get out of it.
And that leads us perfectly into the next topic, which is sleep. Because let's face it, when it comes to training and trying to lose body fat and training for that, there are two parts to doing it, and that is the training, like getting the creating the potential for change and adaptation, and then rest. Like, you need to have those two things, and people tend to miss out the rest part. They tend to, like you said, just smash it in the gym, and and then go home and cook dinner for the family, and then have a stressful job, look after the kids, and so that rest doesn't really happen. So obviously we talked about stress relief and the importance of that, but sleep. So like we should give it a new name, really, something that's just so people don't turn off now. They're just like, oh, it's sleep, let's just turn it off. But yeah, sleep, how it's so important. And I have to say, even myself recently, I've only just started to really appreciate how important it is for health and your goals, just your fitness goals. It's just so important. Obviously, since having kids, it's like, God, I love sleep now. So, I mean, when it comes to sleep, how important is it, Owen? How important is sleep to the fat loss journey?
To the fat loss journey, what it does is, if you can imagine your mobile phone, and every time you woke up in the morning and your mobile phone was at 10% charge, what would happen is, number one, you'd say, I need a new phone, or you check your charger to make sure it was charging. But if that went on for 1 week, you get a new phone, because you need that phone charged for when you go to work. But for some reason, people feel that they can get by. Now, getting by and getting through the day is not striving through the day. It's not peak performing. So when you don't sleep correctly, blood sugar management, mood, libido, focus, cognition, wound healing, you're just going to age faster. You're causing yourself the accumulation of rust, of waste products. Every process in your body is hampered, and it's caused more dysregulation and dysfunction with poor sleep, no matter what it is, whether it be fat loss, whether it be fertility, whether it be cognition, whether it be skin growth, whether it be hair, whether it be nails, whether it be mood. Everything is impacted by poor sleep. And if you want to know how much sleep impacts you, I challenge your listeners to go 2 days without sleeping, and they will be like a zombie. I'm not saying go do that, but if you have young kids, that's happened. Like, what is hard when you're sleep deprived? Everything. Thinking about breathing is challenging. Putting your socks on it, you start, like, I was putting phones in the fridge and making bottles and going, what am I doing? You don't know what's going on. But think about how confused you are. Your cells need a constant stimulation of daytime, nighttime, oxygen uptake, fuel utilization, DNA replication, all these million processes that go in the body. They're regulated by your circadian rhythm. If your rhythm is off by poor sleep, fat burning is gone, blood sugar regulation is gone, blood pressure is gone, the neurons in your brain that need to be synchronized, switched on, the beta amyloid plaque that needs to get switched out of there needs to be cleaned. It's not happening. You're aging faster. You're causing your body to accumulate rust and then expecting to function the next day. So when sleep is an issue, it's for me, it's the priority. It's the driving person in that car. 2 weeks of addressing their sleep will have so much impact on everything else that you do. The same way when people come to me and they've got gluten issues or thyroid issues, there's no point in cutting your calories and making you train harder when you have these big elephants in the room that need to be addressed first. And I know it's not sexy, but what I would challenge everyone is, if you were doing any nutrition plan or any diet plan or training plan, improve your sleep for 2 weeks. I guarantee you the training you're doing, the mood you're in, the diet you're following will get better results because you're sleeping better, categorically. And if not, trust me, you'll be more energized, more focused, more fresh to change the diet or nutrition. You'll be more switched on. Everything is better with better sleep.
So you'd say sleep is number one. That's like the
It
first
is
thing.
It is number one if it's a problem.
Right.
So for some people, it's not the problem, but for a lot of people, it is the problem. So if I look at your food plan, I look at your lifestyle plan, and I see that the breakfast, lunch, and dinner is immaculate, but you're getting 6 hours of sleep, you're falling asleep on the couch, you're snoring, bang, I do that first. Don't get me wrong, if someone's diet is terrible and their sleep is terrible, I might tweak the nutrition a little bit, but my major focus is going to be the sleep. And then as that becomes less of an issue with sleep, I take my focus more onto the nutrition.
So what would you class as poor sleep? What are all the variations? If someone's listening, they're like, do I have poor sleep? I don't know.
So first thing on sleep is there's a lot of variation on the amount that people will recommend. It's pretty clear though, 6 to 8 is the window. People might say 6, some people might say 7, but 6 to 8 is the standard. Based on top of that, the second thing is consistency. It's you're staying asleep for that time. Now, waking up maybe once, Matthew Walker's like, you can wake up once without getting out of bed. It's not so much of an issue once you fall back asleep. So the length of time, less interruptions, and then one of my most important things is sleep hygiene. The cells of our body need regulation. They need a constant bedtime and a constant morning time. The problem is people sleep in, they go to bed too late, they go at different times, and that wave is going all the time. I remember once I had to go to New Zealand for a meeting that I couldn't get out of, and I was there for 15 hours, and I came back. And people were like, "Oh, you went to New Zealand for 15 hours?" I said, "Yeah, but it wasn't jet lag." If you go to a country and you stay there a couple of days, you get into that jet lag. We've all been there. Like we don't know what's going on. When you go to the bathroom, or should I be eating? Should I be sleeping? It's sunny. The lads want to go train. I don't know where I am. But that's what it's like. People have social jet lag because they go to bed at 10 o'clock one night, 1 o'clock the next night, up at 6 for a client in the morning, one morning. Then they have to go to an airport at 4, and they're all over the place. We need to have routine, sleep hygiene. That we go to bed and get up at the same time for 14 days. We sleep all the way through, and we sleep a minimum around 6 to 7 hours. Once we get that going, it will transform your clients. They wake up less inflamed. They wake up switched on. The most important alarm clock to set is the one to go to bed, not the one to get up. And when you do this on a regular basis, you'll start to wake yourself up. The problem is, and we've all done that, we have technically 5 sleep cycles. They put 3 and 4 together, but we technically 5 sleep cycles. And what happens is, it takes around 90 minutes to go through these cycles. If you wake up when you're in deep sleep, you'll tend to be a bit more groggy. But naturally, over 14 days, the body will synchronize. So you're in light phase of sleep, and when you wake up, you're actually quite refreshed. And that's what you should feel. You should wake up in the morning going, "I'm good to go." If you're pressing that snooze button 3 or 4 times, that's not the best way to wake up. I'm sure you've woke your kids up in the morning and they're floppy, they don't know what's going on. We're adults, we should be waking up and be alert. We should be up and ready to go. And if we constantly aren't, we're jump starting our day with a coffee, or jump starting our day when we're forcing ourselves out of that. Get that routine of same bedtime, same morning time for 14 days, and have massive impact on your fat loss, on your fitness, on your blood pressure in particular. And one of the things I would say is, I'm sure there's people listening going, well, that fella has 4 kids. How can he go to bed at the same time? The more often you do it when you can, the better able your body is to when you can't go to bed in the right time. If you're at home and you can go to bed at 10 o'clock every night, do that. So when you're on holidays or you're going out one night a week for a meal with friends or co-workers, because the majority of the time you have good sleep hygiene, it's like fitness. It will let you bounce back when you can't do it.
And what about, okay, so just say someone is getting to bed on time, same time, getting up at the same time, but they wake up in the middle of the night and they lay there for an hour or two. Is that classed as poor sleep?
The waking up for a long time in the middle of the sleep, that is an indicator of poor sleep. So then the question is, what are they doing? Is their mind racing? Are they thinking about thoughts? Are they not switching off? Is it a melatonin issue? Is it a blood sugar issue? Is it, sometimes people say maybe that the body isn't cleaning itself out at night time and it wakes you up with a bit of adrenaline. One of the things I say to people is, don't look at the clock. If you look at the clock, your brain starts to say, okay, it's 4 o'clock, I'm up at 6, that's 2 hours more, and it's called clock watching. The brain starts to wake up. When you fall asleep, wake up, it's 5:05. I'm up at 6, it's 5:05, a 55 minutes sleep, and then it starts to wake you up. So the question then is, what time are these people waking up at? What is the situation they're waking up at? And how can I wind them down or give them box breathing or meditation or some progressive muscle relaxation to get them back asleep? What I say to every coach and every trainer, every situation you have an opportunity. If someone wakes up, well, my opportunity is to ask you questions how I can help you. So with clients and with everybody listening on the podcast today, there's always an opportunity. I broke my diet. Okay, you went off your diet. Why? What happened? What? Lunch? I couldn't get to lunch. Why? Where were you? Could you go shopping? Where can we learn from this opportunity so we can make better decisions down the line? One of the things I do, a nutrition talk for some corporate businesses, and people say they open their fridge and they say, what are we going to have for lunch? No, don't let the fridge decide what you're having for lunch. I've never seen a fridge go walking down the aisles of a shopping centre. So when you buy your food, buy 7 breakfasts, 7 lunches, 7 dinners. So when you're opening the fridge, the decision is already made. So people make decisions on a reaction. So if you want fat loss doesn't happen by accident. It's an accumulation of a lot of decisions on a consistent period of time. You sleep well. People that lose weight and are fit sleep well, eat well, act well, engage with their friends, engage with partners. They do a lot of things right. So if we do things wrong, we'll identify, well, why did I have a bad meal? And why did I not have food in the house? And why did I go out for a meal when I shouldn't? Why did I have that extra glass of wine? Or why did I miss my supplement? And as a coach, it's our job to support our clients with the answers. It's support our clients with solutions, not to give them more problems, more complexity. Females out there, if you want to lose weight, please go to the bathroom every day. Please focus on your sleep, and please focus on you first. Look after the female first, and fat loss will become a byproduct of being healthier. Killing yourself in the gym, killing yourself in lack of calories, killing yourself to look like somebody else. Don't. Focus on making you healthier, making you happier. And a healthier and happier female is a fat-burning machine. And they're happier with their body. And that's what I try to get across to all females. And I've got 4 beautiful kids, and I'm so thankful to my wife for our children. But I appreciate the toll that took on her body. And that's something that I try to support her as best I can with all aspects of her nutrition. I don't force anything on her. But the fact is that it is a big toll. And women need to realize that they can't bounce back to like they were when they were maybe in their 20s. And that's unfortunate for some people. But other people, we call them skinny bitches. They just get back into shape really fast. Hate them people. Hate them. But the fact is, everyone responds differently in at different ages. So, but making someone healthier, getting them comfortable, and then if fat loss is the goal, they can push on that a bit more.
Sorry, I'm still on the fridge comment about
Okay.
don't let the
Yeah,
fridge decide what you're going to eat.
yeah.
I love that, and that kind of that's a motivator that kind of gets people thinking. You're right. This is silly. Like I should really just plan and take control of my meals. But going back to sleep and the waking in the middle of the night, because the what do you think of the Chinese medicine approach when they say, at let's say 2 o'clock, your liver's detoxing. So if you wake up at 2 o'clock, it could be a liver issue. And then 4 o'clock, lungs could be a lung issue.
Yeah.
Do you think that has anything to do with it? Or do you tend to not look so much too deeply into those things?
No, traditional Chinese medicine has been around for a very long time,
Mm,
and it can be very powerful. So yeah, there is definitely a correlation between oxidative stress from the lungs. It could be a lot of liver function at certain times, and also what's called a treble warmer meridian that they talk about. But in those situations, if someone has oxidative stress, what are we going to do? Increase that antioxidant intake in their diet, make sure hydration. If someone's liver is compromised, well, maybe we're going to support their phase 1, phase 2 detox or gut removal. So there's always solutions. So even if you're not that way inclined, you need to ask those questions. So then we can support the client with that. But definitely, I think that traditional Chinese medicine has associated different times with lung, liver, and the treble meridian or blood sugar at the very start. So I think asking those questions is important.
yeah. And I think something that you said online that I saw the other day, you said that if how a woman feels when she wakes in the morning, and if she's feeling 50%, then don't even try an intense training or
Yeah.
nutrition program yet. Like,
Yeah.
only when you're at least 80%, I think you said something like
Yeah.
that.
So what you have is, so there's what's called adrenal stress index testing, or there's a really good company called the Dutch Test Company. Are you familiar with Dr. Kerry Jones? She does a lot of real good stuff on female nutrition. She's actually, I met her recently in Ireland. She's a lovely lady, great speaker, very engaging, an expert. She really is good. But one of the things that we talk about is we have a curve where we have cortisol. It's high in the morning and generally goes down low towards the night time. That's the way it should be. However, like I'm sure when you learn how to drive your car for the very first time, when you learn how to drive a car, you have to get that clutch in the first gear. You need to get that switch over. In the morning, we have what's called a cortisol awakening response. It's in the first 60 minutes upon waking, the cortisol goes from low to higher, and then it comes down. So it's like a lollipop stick a little bit, and it comes down. When the CAR, or the cortisol awakening response, which is tested through saliva first thing in the morning, 0, 30, and 60 minutes upon waking, that there is one of the strongest indicator of your adrenal function. So those first 3 points can really give an indication of how well that person is doing from an adrenal standpoint. If you wake up and the first 60 minutes you feel like absolute crap, that's a telltale sign that needs to be addressed. If you wake up and you feel like crap, banging coffees and pre-workouts and then smashing the gym is going to break your body down over time. I can guarantee you that. I did a talk with a guy, a podcast, Ed Haynes. He's a lovely guy, CrossFit gym over in Hong Kong. And I spoke to him in Hong Kong again. I think this was 12 or 15 years ago. And I did a stress index for him, and I told him, I said, Ed, and I'm not speaking because we spoke with this in the podcast. I said, Ed, you're flatline, man. You can't sustain this level of training, being an athlete, being a gym owner, coaching all these people. You're going to burn out. He said, no, I'm bulletproof. Anyway, lo and behold, he told me the podcast like 2 months after I left, he crashed and burned. So the body will give you warning signs. For females, if you're waking up in the morning, you need a crowbar to get yourself out of bed. If you need a double espresso before you even talk to somebody, there's an issue. The body is telling you, I'm not right. Address me, look after this, and if you get that curve better, you'll make better decisions. You'll have better adherence to your nutrition plan. You'll have better cognition, better skin, better hair, better hormonal health, better hormonal output, better hormonal removal. You'll just be better. But listen to your body. By taking pre-workouts or taking coffee just to get up in the morning, that's a band-aid. There's something going on. As we say in the functional medicine world, the ATMs, the antecedents, triggers, and mediators. If you're not listening to your body and you're taking coffee and caffeine and pre-workouts to get going in the morning, because everyone says you should train first thing in the morning, maybe you should train in the morning. But someone that has a flat curve in the morning, you're doing more damage to your body by overtraining and pushing the volume too high for your current ability to adapt to it.
And really, this is a real test of a woman's patience here, because if she needs to work on her sleep first and work on her hormones, and before she even thinks about getting serious about a fat loss program, it's a real test of patience. It's like, oh gosh, it's literally, she'll have to introduce meditation to kind of like, okay, let's slow down. Gotta kind of take a back step and slow this whole program down. So it's a real test of patience. And I have to say, just me personally, so the reason why I'm so serious about sleep at the moment is because since having my son is 1 and my youngest, and oh God, ever since he's been born, he sleeps through the night now. My 4-year-old sleeps through the night. It's perfect. Like,
Great.
I can't blame them anymore for my sleep issues. So I sleep, I go to bed at 8, and I believe that's like a trauma response from when my 4-year-old was born. I feel like I'm not going to get enough sleep. So I just, 8 o'clock hits, I'm like, I have to go to bed. Like, I don't know why I'm up. like, and no matter what's happening, I have to go to bed at 8. But anyway, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, around that time, I'll be awake for about 2 or 3 hours. And that's been like consistent. And I wake up and I'm just like, oh God, I feel so rotten. Like, my head feels fluey. And I'm just like, oh, and then I looked up a few sleep things, and it just made me realize I need to work on this, because this is, like you said, this is an alarm bell. But we don't take it seriously, do we? I mean, I'm not the only person who gets this. I mean, everybody, I'm sure to some degree has gotten this. And it's like, this is an alarm bell. Like, you need to address it because it's telling you something. And if you leave it, it's just going to get worse, and you're going to crash and burn like your last podcast host.
Yeah.
So it's something we need to address. And I think patience is really important.
Yeah, and this is the thing, patience 100%. People need to realize that to get big improvements, it takes a long time. So I do these talks to corporations all the time, and people want the quick fix diet, and the quick fix sleep and nutrition, and a quick fix for their sleep. And I always ask the room, if somebody came into your job and got your job in 3 weeks of training, would that seem fair when you went and did a degree for 4 or 5 years? They're like, no, that wouldn't be fair. Oh, so you want the same results from someone following a 5-year being healthy in 3 weeks? So being patient, by being patient, is the body takes time to adapt. And if you respond fast to something, chances are that you may not stay at that new shape for long. But if you periodically improve your health over months and years, you'll stay in shape for months and years, because you've built habits, you've built behaviors, you've built an environment, you've built a society of friends that are supportive to your healthy lifestyle and partner and kids and so on. If you get in shape for 3 months and you still hang around with the people that got you fat and are unhealthy and drug takers and drinkers and all, you'll go back to that over time. So patience is about listening to your body, giving the body what it needs, and giving it the time, giving your body the time to respond to it, rather than rushing it and doing it too fast, because that in itself can be an additional stress to the body. There is multiple stress in the body that we can't control. There's so many we can't control, but it's in our control what we do, what we think, what we eat, how we exercise, the mood we put ourselves in. We need to train ourselves constantly, and particularly the females I have, everyone else comes first. The priority, the minute someone else needs something, they get it at the expense of their own time. And what you said there about in your 40s, your doctor friend, that say no to more. Say no to more things for other people and yes to things for you. And I've got some really wealthy clients, and I always ask them about business advice, and they always talk about return of investment. What we invest our time in, where we put our time, we spend our time with our kids, with our partners, with our family. But some people spend all their time on work. They're working all the time. They're spending no time on themselves. We all wear different hats as a dad, as a brother, as an uncle, as all these things, and mother, partner, wife, so on. We need to spend time with ourselves. And the better we spend time with ourselves, the better we can do everything else. But if we're always working off, trying to force ourselves to lose weight, and we haven't given ourselves the support, the energy that we need to do all the aspects of our life, it's going to wear us down over time. And time is the one thing that nobody has an unlimited amount of. We just don't.
Yeah. So you say, so obviously going to bed at regular times, having a routine. So I guess another way that you can help your sleep is through nutrition, obviously. So what I wanted to tie in here is intermittent fasting, because you mentioned it at the beginning, and I'd like to kind of go into that a bit more. So intermittent fasting is obviously you know, a really great tool. It's a great thing for people. People should all be aware of intermittent fasting and their number of hours that they fast, and you know, maybe even play with it if they're healthy enough for it. So would you say eating windows, so let's say a standard 16-8, which I think everybody is familiar with, would you say that the eating window has an effect on sleep? So let's say you push the eating window to an hour before you go to sleep, like is that less effective than if you have your eating window earlier in the day for someone who doesn't sleep well?
Okay, so this is the thing. So intermittent fasting can be very beneficial for some people, but some people aren't what we call metabolically flexible enough to do it. So when someone's metabolically flexible, it means that they can burn the fuel they consume and then equally and efficiently tap into their own fat reserves. If you're overweight or you've got a lot of body, it indicates that you are not necessarily a good fat burner. And that a good fat burner is someone that isn't very efficient at burning fat in a fasted state. So we have two processes in our body that make us go to sleep. So one is called process C. And process C stands for cortisol. We want cortisol to be high in the morning, low at nighttime. So ultimately, when we eat breakfast in the morning, if we eat a lot of carbohydrates, that suppresses cortisol. We don't necessarily want to do. We want cortisol nice and high in the morning, and you want it low at nighttime. So by having carbohydrates at nighttime brings cortisol down. So having carbs at nighttime can actually suppress cortisol a little bit. Over here, we have what's called sleep drive, or process D, sleep drive. And as you wake up, you shouldn't be tired. And as the day goes on, you should get more and more and more tired. So low cortisol and a high drive to go to bed. That's what you want at nighttime. Unfortunately, a lot of people have a high sleep drive to go to bed, but the cortisol is too high, right? So in that situation, I probably wouldn't give people intermittent fasting. One of the things that a lot of people do, if I said to you, I want you to intermittent fast, most people say, I can do that, I'll skip breakfast. For me, I don't do that. I give them breakfast, lunch, a little snack, and they finish eating 5 hours before bed. In that 5 hours before bed, that person will find that sleep hard the next day. I guarantee you, that person who goes to bed at 10, who has stopped eating at 5 o'clock, they will wake up so hungry. It's unbelievable. And then all of a sudden, we get the metabolism going. We get them hungry and high cortisol in the morning, and then it winds down. Plus, as we just mentioned earlier on, if I was to ask the majority of people, when did they consume the most amount of food they should be consuming? It's in that window of 5 to 10. So by us moving that intermittent fasting to the early part of the day, they make better food choices. They make sure they get the food in. Now, a lot of times they say to me, oh, I didn't have time. Work on it. Get the breakfast in, get a little snack then before lunch, have a little snack. But by 5 o'clock, you stop. And that allows them not to have any decision to make before they go to bed. It really gets their rhythm going well. So if I am going to do intermittent fasting, I do it that way to start off. But ideally, if sleep is a problem, I get that going first, and then I add in intermittent fasting after.
So, I mean, that kind of goes with the saying. So what do they say? Have breakfast like a king, and then, you know, lunch like a, you know, as it carries on like that.
Pearson and a pauper,
Yeah. That's great, because usually when I intermittent fast, usually I would pick the lunch and the dinner. But recently I've been thinking, okay, let me just kind of switch it up a bit, and I'll finish dinner at least. I would usually say 3 hours beforehand, before going to bed. But you know, maybe I'll give the 5 hours a try and see if it works.
Yeah. Definitely do something to try. And this is the thing: if you're waking up in the middle of the night, that could be a situation where your blood sugar is here. So, for example, people, and this is the thing I'm trying to stress to people: we have. I'm not quite sure what units of measurement you measure for glucose where you are, but we have a range of around 5.0 nanograms per deciliter, which is only 5 grams of sugar circulating in your body. So when you're asleep, and if your blood sugar dips down, the body wants to bring it back up, and it brings it back up through cortisol, through glucagon, through epinephrine, norepinephrine, and growth hormone can bring it back up again. But sometimes if it goes too low, that adrenaline could be waking you back up. So maybe that if we had some slow releasing carb or protein or fat before bed, that might allow you to stay asleep for longer. So intermittent fasting is definitely a very good tool because it narrows down people's choices of eating. It makes them prioritize their meals, and it extends the fasting window for autophagy, for cell turnover, for lots of other functions. And also, it's a no-brainer. People say, okay, I can't eat now, so they don't make poor food choices. But as again, it's a tool in the toolbox if it's good for that person at that time, you know, at that stage of life and their goal, obviously.
Yeah, and then obviously carbohydrates, good forms of carbohydrates, like definitely not sugars, because I can imagine if someone has the sugar before bed, then they're not going to have a great sleep. The blood sugar will be like a roller coaster, right?
100. And this is the thing, when I mean carbohydrates, I mean vegetables, I mean potatoes, or possibly rice or some oats. I'm not talking processed sugars in any shape or form.
Are you a fan of like pasta, and do you try to keep those out of people's diets? Or
I do and I don't. For a lot of people that I deal with have gluten issues, so pasta is unfortunately not in there. Pastas from different countries tend to have a different form of gluten in them. Some people can tolerate them, but a lot of people I have non-celiac gluten sensitivity, or they're celiac, so gluten or pasta isn't in the diet. But for some people, pasta can be very beneficial.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that kind of wraps up a lot of the questions that I have. It's so funny because usually, you know, before a podcast, I send the questions that I want to ask to the person. So I'll say, look, these are the questions I'm looking to ask, and you know, I just think that's the nicest thing to do. But for you, for some reason, I was like, I'm not going to do that this time. I'm not going to send him any specific questions. I'm just going to send you a topic. I'm going to be like, this is the topic, go. And you'll be like, yeah. And you'll just do it. So yeah, that was really cool. Thank you so much. So just to kind of wrap up, just summarize just the best tips for fat loss for women, just in summary.
In summary, the best tip for females to improve their fat loss capabilities: 1, address sleep. If sleep is an issue, it should be the first thing to address. 2, get a routine. And what I mean by a routine, the routine in the morning, routine in the evening, routine in the nighttime, so the body knows what question you're asking it. If you suspect that maybe there's some thyroid issue, or maybe some adrenal issues, or maybe some blood sugar issue, address those 3 things, because they will stumble your fat loss. And the last tip is to listen to your body. Train according to what your body responds to. Try to watch overtraining. Listen to how your body responds. And if you can, and I know it sounds corny coming from a coach, but try to get someone to help you. Try to ask questions to people. If there's someone that hearsay and recommendations online, have someone that knows what they're talking about help you, assist you, support you, encourage you, motivate you, because it's not easy. It's, as you said, it's a big gray area. But having a professional, whether it be a doctor or an endocrinologist or a trainer or a nutritionist, get some advice, because you can spend a lot of money and a lot of time doing the wrong stuff. But if you go to the right people, you can narrow it down and they'll make the plan. Hopefully, if they're professionals, they'll make it about you. And that's what we want. The plan is specific to you at your stage of health. You've got a good rhythm of sleep, a good rhythm of nutrition. You're listening to your body, and you've addressed stuff like thyroid, adrenals, and pancreas if they are an issue.
I love that. Thank you so much, Eoin. That was just absolutely fab. That you totally delivered. That was awesome.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Delighted. No problem at all.